I never thought a name could become a battlefield. To me, my daughter's name was never just a word written on paper. It was a promise I made to myself the night I held her for the first time, exhausted, trembling, and completely in love. After everything I had been through, loss, loneliness, and years of feeling like I didn't belong anywhere, she was my beginning again. 8 years old now, she was bright in a way that made strangers smile without knowing why. The kind of child who asked too many questions, who noticed small details adults ignored, who still believed the world was mostly good. Her name suited her perfectly, soft, meaningful, and chosen with intention. It belonged to her in every sense of the word. But my parents never saw it that way. To them, names were not personal. They were currency. They were tradition. They were something to be traded, reused, recycled, especially if it meant keeping control over family identity. I had learned that long ago, even if I had tried to ignore it. It started small, like most problems in families do. A comment here, a suggestion there. She has your sister's eyes. My mother once said, brushing my daughter's hair back as if she was inspecting a memory instead of a child. I remember how my sister smiled at that particular smile she always had when attention shifted toward her, like she was stepping into a spotlight she believed was permanently hers. She leaned in, playful, almost sweet. She even acts like I did at that age. She added, maybe she should have been named after me. I laughed it off at the time. I actually laughed. I thought it was just one of those harmless family remarks that meant nothing if you didn't feed it energy. But I didn't understand what I was really dealing with. My parents didn't forget ideas like that. They incubated them. Weeks passed, then months. Life continued in its usual rhythm. School runs, groceries, birthday planning. Small routines that make up the life of a single mother raising a child who is her entire world. I should have felt safe in that routine, but every family visit started feeling slightly off. It was in the way my mother lingered a little too long when saying my daughter's full name. Like she was testing it in her mouth, trying to see if it still fit. It was in the way my father stopped correcting my sister when she casually referred to my daughter as little me. And it was definitely in the way my sister began talking about legacy. At first, I didn't connect the dots. I didn't want to, because connecting them meant accepting something I wasn't ready to face, that my child was being quietly turned into something else in their minds. Not a person, not my daughter, but a continuation of my sister. Then came the dinner. I still remember that evening too clearly, like my brain refuses to blur it out for my own peace. My parents had insisted we all gather. My father called it a simple family meal, the way he always did when something complicated was waiting underneath the surface. My daughter was excited. She wore her favorite dress, the one with tiny stitched flowers at the hem. She held my hand the entire way there, swinging it slightly as she talked about school, about a drawing she made, about how she wanted to become an artist and paint feelings instead of pictures. I smiled at her, because she deserved a smiling world, even if I no longer believed in one. When we arrived, everything looked normal. Too normal. That was the first warning sign I ignored. The table was already set. My mother had cooked too much food, which usually meant she was trying to impress or soften something she knew would hurt. My sister arrived last, of course, dressed perfectly as always, her presence immediately shifting the atmosphere like she was the center of gravity. My father poured drinks. My mother asked too many polite questions, and my daughter, unaware of any tension, happily explained her school project. For a while it almost felt safe. Then my mother placed her fork down gently and said, "We've been thinking about something." That sentence alone changed the air. My sister leaned back slightly, folding her hands like she was watching a performance she already knew the ending of. My father didn't look at me. He looked at the table. My mother continued, "It might be meaningful if we adjusted something small about your daughter's name." I blinked. Once, twice, I thought I misheard her. My daughter's name. I repeated slowly. She smiled in that careful, rehearsed way people use when they think they are being reasonable. Just a thought. Nothing dramatic. We were thinking she could carry your sister's name as a second name, maybe even her first. It would honor her, keep the family tradition alive. For a moment, I couldn't even respond. Not because I agreed, but because my brain was trying to find logic where none existed. My daughter stopped eating. I felt her hand tighten around mine under the table. My sister spoke next, casually, like she was suggesting dessert. "It's not like her current name disappears. It's just adding meaning. She already reminds everyone of me anyway." That was the moment something inside me shifted. Slowly, I turned my head toward her. "She reminds everyone of you." My sister shrugged. "Don't take it personally. She just has that energy. That energy." As if my daughter was a reflection instead of a person. My father finally spoke, clearing his throat. "We're not saying this to upset you. It's actually a compliment. Your sister built a strong name in this family. It's respected. Respected." I looked at my daughter again. She was quiet now, too quiet for an 8-year-old. Her eyes moved between faces, trying to understand a conversation she should never have been part of. I squeezed her hand gently. That was the only thing grounding me. My mother reached across the table as if this was still a friendly discussion. "Think about it calmly. It's just a name. You're being emotional." That word, emotional, hit harder than anything else. Because I wasn't emotional, I was awake. And for the first time in years, I saw my family clearly, not as relatives, not as authority, but as people who believed they had the right to edit my child's identity to match their preferences. My daughter finally whispered, "Mom, why do they want to change my name?" And I had no answer that could protect her from the truth forming in front of us. After that dinner, I kept telling myself it was a misunderstanding. That word, misunderstanding, became my shield. I used it to soften what I already knew was sharp. I replayed every sentence in my head, trying to find a version where my parents meant something innocent, where my sister's smirk was just coincidence, where my daughter's quiet confusion didn't mean she had already been pulled into something she never asked for. But denial doesn't last long when people keep pushing. The first call came the next morning. My mother's voice was calm, almost cheerful, like nothing had happened. Like she hadn't suggested rewriting my child's identity over dinner. "We just want you to think about it properly," she said. "Don't react emotionally. Talk to your sister too. She's willing to be involved. It would mean so much to her." I sat on the edge of my bed, watching my daughter tie her shoelaces for school, her little fingers still clumsy with knots. "She's 8, I said quietly. "She already has a name." My mother sighed like I was the difficult one. "No one is taking anything away. We are adding meaning, that's all. You're making it sound extreme." But it wasn't just my mother. My sister started texting me directly after that. At first, it was polite, "You're overthinking it." Then it became persuasive. Kids adjust easily. "She won't even remember the change later." Then it turned sharp. "You always act like you're the only one who cares about her future." That one made my hands shake, because it wasn't just about a name anymore. It was about control, about rewriting reality until I agreed with them. At school pickup, I noticed my daughter was quieter than usual. She didn't run into my arms like she used to. She walked slowly, looking at the ground. "Did something happen today?" I asked as we walked home. She hesitated. That hesitation hurt more than any argument. Some girls ask me why Grandma and Grandpa call me a different name sometimes," she said softly. My stomach dropped. What different name? I asked, even though I already knew. She looked up at me. "They said, little Alia, that wasn't her name. It wasn't even close." I stopped walking for a second, forcing myself to breathe normally so she wouldn't see the anger rising in me. "They shouldn't do that," I said gently. "Your name is your name." She nodded, but her eyes didn't fully believe me. That night, I sent a message to my parents asking them to stop referring to her that way. I tried to keep it calm, controlled, clear. Their response came almost immediately. My father, "We are not doing anything wrong." My mother, "It's affectionate. Don't turn it into a problem." My sister, "She doesn't mind. You're the only one making it awkward." That line stayed in my head longer than I wanted it to. You're the only one making it awkward, as if protecting my child's identity was an inconvenience. A few days later, they escalated again. This time they didn't ask. They insisted. My mother called a family meeting. Not a dinner this time. A meeting, like we were discussing property instead of a human being. When I arrived, the energy in the room was already different, tighter, more intentional. My sister sat beside my mother this time, not across from her, like they were aligned. My daughter stayed close to me, holding my hand so tightly her fingers hurt mine. She had started doing that lately, like she was afraid I might disappear if she let go. My father spoke first. "We need to be practical about this." Practical, that word again. My sister leaned forward. "No one is trying to erase anything. We're just saying she already reflects part of me. Why not acknowledge it officially?" I stared at her. "Officially," she nodded. "Names are powerful, you know that. She already carries the energy. Why fight it? Energy." They kept reducing my daughter to something abstract, a reflection, a continuation, a symbol, not a person. My mother reached for my daughter's hand across the table, and I instinctively pulled her closer. "She's part of this family," my mother said softly. "She should carry the family pride properly." My daughter flinched slightly at the touch that didn't reach her. I could feel something shifting inside me again. Not anger exactly. Something colder, sharper. The realization that this wasn't going to stop on its own. "It's just a name," my mother repeated, more firmly this time. "Why are you making this so difficult?" I looked at her for a long moment. Then I said, "Because it's not just a name. It's her identity." My sister scoffed under her breath. Drama, that word snapped something I had been holding together for years. I stood up slightly, still holding my daughter's hand. "You don't get to decide what parts of her matter." My father's voice rose for the first time. "We are her family." I turned to him. "So am I." Silence followed, heavy, pressing, the kind of silence that reveals what people really believe when they think no one will challenge them. My mother softened her tone again, switching tactics. "We're doing this out of love. You're misunderstanding us." There it was again. Love used as pressure. Love used as control. Love used as justification. My daughter tugged my sleeve gently. "Mom, can we go?" That small voice broke through everything else. I looked at her face, confused, tired, too young to carry any of this, and something in me finally settled into place. Not anger, decision. I crouched slightly so I was at her eye level. "Yes," I said. Then I looked at them again. "This isn't about misunderstanding," I said calmly. "This is about you not listening." My sister rolled her eyes. "So what? You're just going to isolate her from her own family." My voice didn't shake when I answered. "If this is what you call family, then maybe she needs distance from it." I didn't know it yet, but that moment was the point of no return. The moment I said it, "She needs distance from it," the room changed. Not loudly, not dramatically, but in a quiet, irreversible way. like something inside the structure of our family had cracked and everyone could feel the air leaking out of it. My mother blinked at me as if I had spoken a foreign language. My father's jaw tightened, the way it always did when he thought I was being unreasonable, but didn't yet have full control of the situation. And my sister, she smiled, not a warm smile, not even a surprised one. It was the kind of smile people wear when they believe they've already won and are simply waiting for you to realize it. You're overreacting, my sister said lightly. It's just a name discussion. You're turning it into a drama. I didn't respond. Not because I had nothing to say, but because I was watching my daughter instead of them. She was standing close to me, her small hand still locked into mine like a lifeline. Her shoulders were slightly hunched, her eyes moving quickly between faces, trying to understand why adults who were supposed to love her were talking about her like she wasn't in the room. That realization hurt more than anything else. My mother tried again, softer this time, shifting into the tone she always used when she wanted obedience to feel like care. We are not enemies, she said gently. We are family. We are trying to give her something meaningful, a name that carries strength. Her name already carries meaning, I replied quietly. My father exhaled sharply. You always do this. You take everything personally. I finally looked at him directly. Because it is personal. It's my child. My sister leaned forward, tapping her fingers on the table. You act like we're trying to take her away from you. A pause, then she added almost casually, we're just improving what's already there. That word improving made something inside me go still. My daughter shifted closer to me. I felt it before I saw it, the way her confidence was shrinking in real time inside that room. Like every word spoken around her was slowly pressing her smaller. My mother reached again, this time toward my daughter directly. Sweetheart, you don't need to worry. We are just discussing something nice for you. I stepped slightly in front of her hand. Not aggressively, just enough. No, I said. My mother froze. I continued, my voice steady now in a way it hadn't been before. Do not involve her in this conversation. My father's face darkened. She is part of this family. She is a child. I corrected. And she is not a topic for negotiation. For a moment, no one spoke. Then my sister laughed softly, like I had said something naive. You're being ridiculous. It's not like we're harming her. That word again, ridiculous. It was always used when they wanted to dismiss me without addressing what I was actually saying. But something had shifted in me completely now. The confusion was gone. The hope that they might understand had already dissolved somewhere between their second attempt and this moment. What remained was clarity, and clarity is dangerous in situations like this. My father leaned back in his chair, his voice colder now. If you refuse to cooperate with your own family, then don't expect support in return. There it was. The pressure, the leverage, the threat dressed as disappointment. My mother added quickly, we are only asking for compromise, not rejection. But I had already heard what they meant. Compromise meant compliance, and compliance meant giving them access to my child's identity. I looked at each of them slowly. My sister, still leaning forward, confident. My mother, trying to appear hurt. My father, trying to assert authority without saying the word control out loud. None of them looked at my daughter. Not once. That was the final thing I needed, because I realized something simple and devastatingly clear. They weren't debating a name. They were trying to reshape her identity without her consent. I felt my daughter tug my sleeve again. Mom, she whispered, can we leave now? Her voice wasn't just small, it was tired, and that tiredness did what anger couldn't. It grounded me completely. I reached down and gently squeezed her hand. Yes, I said again, then I stood up fully. My chair scraped slightly against the floor, but no one reacted. It was like they were waiting to see if I would fold again, soften again, return to being the version of me that stayed quiet to keep the peace. I need you to understand something, I said calmly. My sister rolled her eyes. Here we go. I ignored her. This, I continued, is not a discussion anymore. You don't get to rename my child. You don't get to attach her identity to someone else. And you don't get to involve her in your comparisons. My mother looked offended now. We are her grandparents, and I am her mother. I replied. The words hung in the air heavier than anything else in that room. My father spoke again, voice firm. You are making a mistake. I met his eyes. No, I said quietly. You already did. Silence. This time it was different, not uncomfortable, final. My sister scoffed again, but there was less confidence in it now. So what? You're just going to cut us off over this? I looked at her. For the first time, I didn't feel the need to explain myself. Yes, I said simply. That single word changed everything. My mother gasped softly. My father straightened in his chair. My sister's expression shifted just slightly, like she hadn't expected the consequence to actually be real. You can't be serious, my mother said quickly, over a suggestion. I shook my head. This wasn't a suggestion, I said. It was a pattern, and I won't let my daughter grow up inside it. My daughter held onto me tighter. I turned slightly toward her. Let's go home. And we walked out. No shouting followed us. No one stopped us. No one chased after us. But behind us, I could feel the weight of something collapsing, not loudly, not dramatically, but permanently. That was the moment I realized the truth. They didn't think I would actually choose her over them. And that misunderstanding was about to become their loss. Cutting them off didn't feel like fireworks or victory. It felt like closing a door that had been left half open for too long, letting in drafts I had grown used to without realizing how cold they were. At first, the silence was loud. My phone stayed unusually quiet in the days that followed. No messages from my mother checking in. No casual calls from my father that always somehow turned into lectures. No passive, aggressive texts from my sister pretending concern while digging for control. Just nothing. And strangely, that nothing was the first peaceful thing I had experienced in years. My daughter noticed it before I said anything. Are we not going to Grandma and Grandpa's anymore? She asked one evening while drawing at the kitchen table. Her voice wasn't sad. It was careful, like she was testing whether the question itself was safe. I sat beside her and watched the way she colored a house with bright windows and a small garden out front. No, I said gently, not right now. She nodded slowly, okay. Then after a pause she added, that's okay, I like it here more. That simple sentence almost broke me more than the entire confrontation had, because I realized she wasn't losing anything she trusted. She was gaining relief. The first attempt from my parents came 3 days later. It started with my mother. A message: we may have been misunderstood. Please let us talk properly. This is hurting everyone. No apology. Just blame wrapped in softness. I didn't reply. Then my father called. Once, twice. I didn't answer either time. The third day, my sister tried. Her tone was different, less confident, more irritated. You're really doing this. Over a small disagreement, you're isolating her from her family. That word again, isolating, as if protecting my child from control was the same as harming her. I still didn't respond. The fourth day, something changed. My mother sent a longer message. This time, the mask cracked slightly. We never meant to hurt her. We were trying to honor family. You are making us look like villains. That was when I understood something important. They weren't sorry for what they tried to do. They were sorry for losing access. And that difference mattered more than anything else. Weeks passed, the silence settled deeper. At first, I worried about guilt creeping in, about doubt making me question my decision at 2 a.m., when the house was quiet and everything felt heavier. But instead, something else grew in its place. Stability. My daughters started smiling more again. Not the polite, careful smiles she wore around them, but real ones. Loud ones, the kind that filled rooms. She stopped flinching when her name was said. She started introducing herself with confidence again, like she remembered she belonged to it. One afternoon, while walking home from school, she asked, "Mom, can someone change your name if they want to?" I looked at her carefully before answering. "No," I said, "no one can change your name unless you choose it." She thought about that for a moment. Then she nodded like it made perfect sense. Good. And just like that, something inside her settled. Meanwhile, the outside world tried to pull me back in. A distant aunt called, saying I was breaking the family apart over pride. Another relative sent a long voice note about respecting elders. Someone even suggested I should just compromise for peace. But peace had never existed in that compromise. Only silence from me had finally created it. One evening, I received a final message from my father. It was short. "You will regret shutting your family out." I read it twice, not because it hurt, but because it confirmed everything I already knew. They still believed this was about control, still believed I would eventually fold, still believed my daughter was something they had a right to shape. I didn't reply. Instead, I deleted the message, not out of anger, out of closure. Months passed. Life became smaller in the best possible way. Mornings with school runs, afternoons filled with drawings spread across the table, evenings where the world didn't demand explanations from me. And slowly, the absence of their voices stopped feeling like loss. It started feeling like space. Space for my daughter to exist without comparison. Space for me to breathe without defending her existence. One night, as I tucked her into bed, she held my hand a little longer than usual. "Mom," she whispered. "Yes. Am I okay the way I am?" I froze for a second, not because I didn't know the answer, but because I hated that she ever had to ask it. I brushed her hair gently back from her face. "You are more than okay," I said softly. "You are exactly who you're supposed to be." She smiled, sleepy and calm. "Good," she murmured, closing her eyes. After she fell asleep, I sat in the quiet living room for a long time, not thinking about what I lost, but what I protected, because in the end, the revenge wasn't confrontation. It wasn't proving a point. It wasn't watching them regret it. It was this: a child who no longer questioned her own name. A home where no one tried to rewrite her. And a silence from my family that, for the first time in my life, didn't feel like punishment. It felt like freedom.